Good day, everyone. I'm going to be a tutor today for life sciences, and we're going to be looking at the biodiversity as well as the classification of microorganisms. So, if ever you have any questions or there's a part where you don't understand, please don't hesitate to actually send us an email at Apex, right? And another thing that we're looking at today is that we're going to be looking at the classification of organisms. Remember, guys, this is grade 11 life sciences. So let's take a look at how it is. So the first thing that I'm going to do is to present a screen to everyone, and I hope everyone can see it. So we're just going to scroll up a bit, and then we look at biodiversity. Right. So the first things first, we have to define what is biodiversity. So defining biodiversity, we say this refers to a wide variety of plants, microorganisms, as well as animals on Earth. So remember, guys, we've got different plants, we've got different animals, and also we've got different microorganisms. But remember, as they're all found on Earth, as they're all living harmoniously, we give them a term in science, which is biodiversity, right? So when it comes to microorganisms, these are the organisms that we can only see under the use of a microscope, right? Microorganisms are the organisms that we can only see if they are exposed under a microscope. And then we also have what is called macroorganism. Macroorganisms are the organisms that we can actually be able to see using our naked eye. So when it now comes to these kingdoms, right, there are 5 different types of this kingdom. We have what is called the kingdom of Monera, which was also known as a bacteria. We have what is called the kingdom of Plantae, kingdom of Animalia, kingdom fungi, and then we also have what is called the kingdom Protista. So it's very important for you guys to take note of these 5 kingdoms. So the first one that we're going to look at is called a virus. I just want to take you back to grade 10 because here you're going to come across different structures and different diagrams, which is very important for all learners to remember the rules and the expectations of an individual when they're drawing a diagram. So remember, guys, your heading should either be on top or it should actually be at the bottom. And another thing, your headline is supposed to be underlined. So where simple means your headline is the same as the heading, it has to be underlined always. And then we look at the errors whenever you are going to be labeling your document or whenever you're going to be labeling your diagram. Please, and I'm begging each and every one of you, please make sure that your lines are going to be adjacent to each other. There shouldn't be any given point where they are going to crisscross each other, because once your lines crisscross each other and they're not adjacent to each other, we have already lost marks as a learner, and now we don't want you to lose any marks. So let's take a look at viruses. So when it comes to the viruses, we actually place them at a separate group when it comes to the other kingdoms. The reason why your viruses are placed at a different kingdom, at a different group, guys, is because they display the characteristics of both living organism and also for non-living organism. So what do we mean by that? I think you all know that as human beings, right, we actually feed, right? We actually excrete and we also respire. But now, when it comes to a virus, it doesn't do any of those. Therefore, we can't place a virus under living organism because, first of all, it does not respire, which simply means a virus does not take out carbon dioxide or take in oxygen. It doesn't do that. And another thing, it doesn't feed, which simply means even if you had to put food somewhere, it's not going to eat at the end of the day because it does not feed. Second of all, in order for it to be able to survive, it actually needs a host, right? So since it's going to need a host in order for it to survive, we can't really say it's actually a living cell. Are we together? So it can only live as long as it is within a host. That's why we have had some cases or some incidents whereby we're told that a virus cannot live, or it can only live for a certain period of time outside the host, right? Which simply means in order for a virus to live or to survive or to continue surviving, it is supposed to be inside a host. That's why if you look at your HIV virus, you look at your COVID, you look at all those facts, they actually found inside a host, right? That's why we're simply saying when it comes to a virus, it's going to display the living and the non-living organisms. And then another thing, guys, is that when it comes to the viruses, we also see they are acellular, right? Reason why we're saying they are acellular, meaning of acellular, guys, simple means it doesn't have any cells, right? Or limited cells. So anything that is acellular, it does not have cells. So when it comes to a virus, it doesn't have any cells. So as it doesn't have any cells, what do we simply mean? It simply means anything that has a cell is supposed to have a what? A cell membrane. But just because a virus is acellular, it lacks cells, it doesn't have a what? A cell membrane, nor does it have a cytoplasm, because it doesn't need any cytoplasm. Remember, in order for you to survive, it actually needs a what? A host. I hope all of you understood that. The second one that we're looking at is known as bacteria, right? So bacteria, guys, is made up of different shapes. We've got four different shapes that make up bacteria. We have what is called a coccus, which is round shaped. We have the bacillus, which is rod shaped. We have the spirillum, which is spiral shaped. And then we have the last one is called the vibrio, which is comma shaped. So when it comes to bacteria, it produces through what is called binary fission. So someone might ask, okay, I only know of asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. So what is this binary fission? So guys, what you have to remember is that, let's go back to grade 10 a bit. In grade 10, we did a meiotic division, right? Whereby we said mitosis is the division of one cell into two daughter cells, right? That are genetically identical to each other. When you get to grade 12, you're going to learn about meiosis, whereby we say meiosis is the division of one cell into four daughter cells, right? That are genetically different from each other and to the parent cell. Why am I even defining these two terms? Because I want you to remember that at the end of each division, right, we have what is called telophase. So after telophase, there's also another phase which is known as the division of cytoplasm, and we call that phase the cytokinesis. So now, guys, when it comes to binary fission, right, let me give you a practical example that I think every person can try and get a picture of what we are speaking about if we say bacteria produces by binary fission. So let's just say you've got one cell here. This one cell separates or reproduces or splits into two, right? And then those two that have been formed, they all going to split again. So instead of you having three, now how many do you have? The first cell is also going to produce two. The second cell produces two each. So already how much do you have? You have roundabout. So it's gonna be 2, 4, 6. All right, let's just count. You've got the first one, which is 1. It divides into 2. Those two are still going to further divide, and the first one is still further going to divide. So the ones that they've splitted into, they're also going to continuously divide. So what someone's saying, when it comes to bacteria, there's no limited time on how much they can multiply, right? Or how much they can produce again. So within a space of a minute or 3 seconds, you might find out that you now have got millions of bacteria that have been formed over a short space of time, because binary fission has to do with how each and every bacteria is going to continuously separate and divide continuously. That's how it happens. So bacteria can either be pathogenic or it can be useful at the same time. Someone will be asking, we are saying it can be pathogenic and also saying it can be useful. What do you mean, right? A pathogenic, right, is anything that is said to be pathogenic, guys. We're simply saying it has got the ability, or it actually leads to a disease, right? It actually forms or make a disease, or it actually causes, that's the correct word, it actually causes a disease. And then if we're saying bacteria is also going to be useful, someone is also asking, okay, but if it's causing diseases, how can it then come back and it becomes useful? Okay, I'm just going to give you a couple of examples. For example, number one, we have got amasi. Some of you call it inkomas, right? How is that made or produced or manufactured? You're going to have your raw milk, right? And then you let it ferment. After fermenting, what happens? Fermentation is the introduction of bacteria at the end of the day. So what happens is that immediately when it does that, you now have your bacteria, and then you can now have your cheese, and then you can also now have your all those things that we love eating. So when it comes to the characteristics now of bacteria, guys, is that it is unicellular. What do we mean by unicellular? Unicellular simply means it has got one cell altogether. Second thing is that it also said to be prokaryotic, right? So if ever you come across the word prokaryotic, please do remember that prokaryotic or anything that is a prokaryote, it doesn't have a definite nucleus. So when it comes to bacteria, they do not have a definite nucleus, which is another characteristics. So as we move along, guys, we have the structure of a bacteria, right? This one is also a must for you to know how to draw it. Yes, it seems a bit complicated, but it is what it is. You guys have to know how to label the structure of a bacteria, and most factors that they normally ask you to give their functions. It is the function of a flagellum as well as the function of a slimy capsule, right? So if we're looking at a slimy capsule, right, anything that is slimy, it simply means it's gelish-like. You know, it's I think I've seen mucus. It's also gelish. So that is what we call it, or that is what we call slimy. So the reason why you a slimy capsule is slimy is actually to make sure that it prevents the bacteria from drying out. So in order for bacteria to stay alive, or in order for bacteria not to dry out, it actually needs that slimy layer. So another word that you can use instead of drying out, you can also use desiccation, as are indicated in one of my slides. And then we also have got flagellum. All right. Flagellum, guys, some of you might say, okay, the term flagellum, I might forget it in the exam. Listen, guys, you can still write a tail. You're still going to take it because at the end of the day, flagellum is a tail. So what is the function now of a flagellum? The function of a flagellum, guys, it is to propel the bacteria as it is exposed or when it moves into the liquid. So simply put there, I said flagellum is used to move in the liquid. So if we're saying it's used to move, what do we mean by that? We're simply saying the flagellum is actually used to propel the bacteria to move. Then we have our next kingdom, which is the kingdom of Protista. All right. So when it comes to the kingdom of Protista, we are seeing this is a collection of eukaryotic organisms. So what do we mean by that? Remember, I said prokaryotic means there's an absence or there's no definite nucleus. So now if I'm saying kingdom Protista or Protist actually have a eukaryotic or they are eukaryotic organisms, we're simply saying they have what? They have a definite nucleus. I hope you guys are going to remember this. So when it comes to our protists, guys, they are actually divided into three types, right? We've got what is called the phytoplankton. What is phytoplankton? These are protists that looks like plants. So we say these are plant-like protists. And then we have what is called a zooplankton. What is a zooplankton? This is these are protists that are animal-like. And then we have algae. Guys, algae, we normally find it in water and they are green. And we know that under geography as well as in grade 10 life sciences, we did touch on algae. We said if ever you can have more algae in water, it simply means you are going to what? You are going to inhibit other plants that live in water from them receiving adequate amount of carbon dioxide. So I hope you guys you still remember this. And then when it comes to kingdom Protista, we actually said that it can either be unicellular or it can be multicellular. So if we're now speaking about multicellular, what do we mean by that? Okay, anything that is multicellular, please hold on, let me correct that. All right, so anything that is multicellular, guys, it simply means it has got many cells. So when it comes to our protists, they actually have many cells, right? And then moving right along, we have what are called thylophytes, right? And I'm wondering if there's anyone who knows what is a thylophyte, right? A thylophyte, right, simply means that the organisms do not have a tissue differentiation, right? Remember, we're saying they can be unicellular or they can be multicellular. So now if we're saying they're thylophytes, it simply means that they do not really have the differentiated tissues. And then they can either be autotrophic or they can either be heterotrophic. The reason why they're going to be heterotrophic, guys, it simply means that the fact that they do not have tissue differentiation, right? So you cannot really differentiate them. So at the end of the day, they are going to be heterotrophic. So autotrophic, right? I think you remember again from grade 10 when we spoke about the autotrophs, right? We said autotrophs are the primary producers. So if we're talking about primary producers, what are we talking about? We're talking about the organisms that actually able to manufacture their own food and they actually use sunlight in order to do so. And we also did touch up that they do not get to receive direct nitrogen from the sun because nitrogen, remember, you're going to find it in the atmosphere. And guys, we all know that in the atmosphere, there are no plants there. So when it comes to the autotrophs, where do they get their nitrogen? They don't get the nitrogen, but they're going to receive it as nitrates. Where do you find your nitrates? Your nitrates, you find them in the soil. So any other day, when you see the word thylophyte, please remember it means there's no tissue differentiation. Unicellular means one cell, multicellular means many cell, autotrophic means the organisms that are primary producers that actually able to produce their own food, right, using sunlight. And then we also have kingdom Protista. We see some of them are sessile. All right. So if we're simply saying they're sessile, guys, we're simply saying when you look at them, it's like they're actually attached to the ground, but they're not really attached to the ground, guys, right? Let's take a look at algae, right? Algae, guys, if you're looking at it from afar, you might think, okay, maybe this greenish thing actually has got maybe rods and that they run up into the sea or ocean, wherever the algae is. But actually, if you can take a stick and you try and you move it aside, it's just move as if it's just a blanket or it's just a cover. So when you're looking at them, that's why I'm simply saying they look sessile. So anything that looks sessile, guys, it's like it's actually rooted to the ground, but at the end of the day, it's not even rooted to the ground. And that's how the kingdom Protista is. Not all of them, but some of them are like that. And then we also say some of them actually pseudopodia, right? So what does pseudo mean? Pseudo means false. What is English home language, right? So English home language, I think you have learned about pseudo, right? Anything that is pseudo this, pseudo that, it simply means it is false, right? So now when it comes to your kingdom Protista, we say it is actually pseudopodia. What do we mean by pseudopodia? It simply means, guys, it actually uses false fit in order for it to move from one point to the next point. And then in closing, guys, we are going to close with our kingdom of fungi. All right. Fungi, guys, I think you've seen it in molds, you've seen it in yeast, you've seen it in mushrooms, right? All of them are caused by fungi, right? So when it comes to fungi, we also say fungi is saprotrophic, right? Oh, biological terms, guys. Please bear with us, just biology. So at the end of the day, guys, saprotrophic simply means these are the organisms that actually feed on dead organic matter. So anything, guys, that is saprotrophic, please remember that they actually feed on dead organic matter. And then we have a parasite. What is a parasite? All right. A parasite, guys, this is an organism that feeds on another organism, but also at the same time, it harms the other organism. So that is your parasite. So when it comes to fungi, it is a parasite, where simple means wherever it is, it makes sure that it creates harm because the other organism is not going to get benefit, but is also going to get harmed, right? So when it comes to the kingdom, it's actually made up of different bodies that we call a hyphae, right? This word we call it, or we pronounce it as hyphae. So bodies of fungi are made up of threads that are called hyphae. So this is it. I hope you enjoyed the lesson, and please do not hesitate to continue being with us, continue engaging with us. If ever you've got any questions you don't understand, please, guys, like I said, this is Apex Tutoring. Please make sure that you hit us up, and all the details are provided in our website. Until we meet next time, enjoy.